Three adorable indoor cats are left stranded in the forest and must find their way home. Like a classic Disney adventure, right? They'll encounter all kinds of cute critters along the way, even if there's something not quite right about them. Why are their eyes red and mouths foaming? Well, at least there are people nearby, and indoor cats know that people are always nice to animals. Plus, they'll meet some new friends along the way to help them on their journey. Nothing bad could ever happen when you have friendship, even if they get scratched and start acting funny. Well, whatever happens, I'm sure Elsie, Patch, and Lord Fuzzy Britches will be just fine. Or they would be if this was a Disney movie. But this is a far cry from Disney. This is Feral, and looks can be deceiving as it's one of the most brutal and shocking horror comics I've read recently. Hello friends, this is Grief speaking, and today I'm covering the long-requested Feral. You may find the art style familiar as it's made by the same people that brought you Stray Dogs. Similar to Stray Dogs, Feral has a cute Don Bluth style aesthetic, but is actually a dark and gritty horror story. While Stray Dogs is a slow-burning psychological thriller, Feral starts off right in the shit and never lets up. If you like this comic, be sure to support the author and artist by buying a copy at your local bookstore. But that being said, we have a lot to get to. This is Feral Explained, Part 1. Starting with Chapter 1, Indoor Cats. We see a cat named Elsie cozily watching out a window on a beautiful day. She says, "This was perfect. This was every day. Before everything flipped upside down." It then cuts to an animal control truck cruising down a mountain road. In the back, dozens of cats are in containers. Elsie is calling out for another cat named Lord. He's in a container below her and just tells her to stop yelling. She's embarrassing him. She scolds him, telling him he needs to answer so she knows he's okay. Just then, a disturbed-looking fox stops in the middle of the road as the truck rounds a corner. In a panic, the driver swerves and the truck goes careening off the cliff, flipping in the air and landing upside down. The crash breaks the crates open and the surviving cats all flee into the woods. That's a hell of an opening. Elsie and another cat named Patch search around for Lord but can't find him. It seems Elsie, Patch, and Lord all have the same owners and live together. While looking for Lord, they start arguing. Patch criticizes Elsie for babying Lord all the time, saying he'll find his way back. And she snaps at him, saying no, he doesn't always find his way back. We see a flashback of Elsie watching out the window as her family searches the woods for Lord. We also learn that Lord is short for Lord Fluffy Britches. In the present, Elsie decides they should try to head home, at the protest of Patch, who thinks they should wait by the truck since the people will know where to go. Elsie points out that the man in the truck is dead and the driver is missing, and if you look back at the crash sequence, you'll notice the driver flying out of the windshield. Fact is, they're not going to be any help at this point. Patch continues to argue with her, believing the driver will return if they wait, and eventually their people will pick them up, like they do at the doctor. But Elsie tries to explain, this isn't like the doctor. Their people didn't want to send them away, reminding him that the little girl in their family was shouting and crying when they left. As they argue, they hear a human voice nearby coming from a walkie-talkie. They follow the sound and it leads them to the missing driver, who's dead and hanging from a tree. The two cats freak out and Elsie says she needs a minute. She closes her eyes and breathes, then utters the phrase, 1, 2, 3 little kittens. This seems to summon the spirit of a great cat. It really reminds me of Simba talking to Mufasa in The Lion King. The big cat points out that Lord is lost again. In another flashback, we see Lord as a kitten being introduced to Elsie for the first time. Then the cat spirit asks Elsie if he knows what she did. I'm not exactly sure what's happening here, but it seems as if she's accessing some guiding cat spirit. Either way, it makes me wonder, what doesn't Lord know? Anyway, the spirit fades, but Elsie finds herself looking at an actual animal in its place. It looks like a raccoon drinking from a nearby pond, and Elsie approaches it, glad to see that they aren't the only ones out here. When the raccoon turns its head, however, its eyes are red and its mouth is frothing. Elsie realizes it's not a cat, and it slowly makes its way toward her, snarling. It moves closer, ready to lunge at her, showing its dripping teeth. It's a scary sight. Just as it goes in for the attack, Patch tackles it, and they both go flying into the pond. Patch manages to crawl out, and the raccoon flails wildly in the water. The terrified cats wonder what the hell is wrong with this thing. It crawls out of the water and starts swiping at them. Then a fox jumps in out of nowhere and takes a bite out of the raccoon's arm. Two more foxes appear, all looking deranged and foaming at the mouth. They lay in on the raccoon, devouring the creature. Already, this comic is more gruesome than Stray Dogs, and let me warn you, it does not let up from here. Elsie and Patch use this as a distraction to run away, but they don't get far before the foxes take notice. One of them has an entire raccoon arm in his mouth, by the way. We see their glowing red eyes in the background as the two cats flee for their lives. It's not much use though, these suckers are fast. The cats find a space under a tree trunk and hide, watching as the foxes move in on them, hissing and growling like zombies. It looks like this is the end for these poor house cats, when suddenly a loud snap can be heard from above. The branch that the driver's body was dangling from snapped, and his corpse falls right onto one of the foxes, crushing him beneath the weight. This scares the other two away, and the crushed fox panics as it bleeds out beneath the large man's mangled body. Absolutely brutal. Patch now seems on board with Elsie's plan of getting the hell out of here and trying to find their home. Then something else zips out of the woods right toward them and pins Elsie to the ground. It's Lord. We finally get eyes on the little bastard, and he's okay. This is a side note, but I like Lord's design, how he has this little tuft of hair on his head. It actually kind of reminds me of Sora's lion cub transformation in Kingdom Hearts 2. Maybe that's too deep a cut. Let's get back to the story. It's clear that Lord is a young and hyper cat, and he starts telling Elsie about everything that happened to him in rapid and disjointed succession. How the crash was scary and how many trees there are, the river he found up ahead, and even some deer he saw. He says him and the other cats chased some of the deer, and then the deer chased them back. Some of the cats got really angry all of a sudden and attacked the others. He mentioned some badgers and foxes as well that had something horribly wrong with them. Elsie finally interrupts his rambling and says that they need to get home. She doesn't see Patch and starts calling for him. We see him back by the truck licking his paw. It seems during the fight with the raccoon, he got a bad scratch. There's a close-up on his eyes, and they're steadily becoming red and bloodshot. He then runs ahead to join the others. This chapter ends with a definition of the term rabies, a virus generally spread through saliva of infected animals. The rabies virus is most often transmitted through a scratch or bite. Animals most likely to transmit rabies in the US include bats, coyotes, foxes, raccoons, and skunks. Symptoms include fever, headache, excess salivation, muscle spasms, paralysis, and mental confusion. It ends by saying, once symptoms appear, the disease is nearly always fatal. Yeah, so if you hadn't guessed it, there is a mass rabies outbreak in the area. If you pay attention to some of the chatter on the walkie-talkie earlier in the chapter, it seems like this is a particularly strong variant that spreads fast. It's a brilliant way to tell a zombie story involving animals in a legitimately scary idea. Now let's move into Chapter 2, The Bad Kind. Elsie, Patch, and Lord peek out from some bushes to see something horrific. Rabid wolves ripping apart a deer with sickening sound effects. Elsie points out that they're gonna need to avoid any other animals for now since something is seriously wrong. But as she speaks, Lord just casually strolls up toward the wolves for a better look. Elsie tries to stop the reckless cat and he just yells at her, "What?" Of course, this instantly alerts the wolves to their presence. The wolves are already pretty scary, but we're talking zombie wolves here. Elsie snatches up Lord and they hide in the bush while the wolves fan out and search the area. Luckily, the creatures don't find them and head off. Patch talks about how hungry he's getting, and Lord says maybe they can ask the other cats for food. He gestures to a spot nearby where a group of cats are feasting on something. Once again, Lord just waltzes out of the bushes to ask them if they can get directions, and when the cats look up, it's clear that they're infected too. A chase ensues and the largest cat is gaining on them fast. It pounces for Elsie, but before he can take a bite out of her, the wolves show back up, and one of them bites the large cat's head off. It's gruesome as hell. Elsie, Patch, and Lord turn to see it's not just the wolves, but several other animals, including the foxes and some dogs. It's a full-on zombie horde behind them. They run as fast as they can until they're pinned to a tree. Then from above, a voice shouts down, ushering them to climb up the tree. We see two more cats on a branch that don't look infected. The three cats then start to climb, out of reach from their rabid pursuers. They probably should have thought of that earlier, but these are house cats after all. We learn that the two new cats' names are Jonas and Scratches, but before Elsie can finish with introductions, Jonas interrupts her, telling her to keep moving and never stop. He says to stick to the trees since most animals can't climb other than the bad cats. Elsie tries to stop again. It seems like she's going to do her cat spirit breathing thing, but Jonas butts in, saying if you stop moving even for a moment, they will catch you. And if these indoor cats want to make it out of here, they'll need to listen to him. They keep moving toward the river up ahead, but are cut off by a rabid cat, forcing them to drop to the branches below. Jonas says they'll have to pass through the river since the bad kind hates water. Patch doesn't like the sound of this, saying how much he hates water, and Elsie says, yeah, they all hate water, but there's no way they can jump across, so this is their last option. They find the shallowest point of the river and start working their way toward the other side, except for Patches, who tests his luck by trying to jump across tree to tree. And he actually pulls it off, saying, holy shit, I made it. The branch he grabbed snaps, however, and he falls all the way to the ground, landing on 2 feet, of course. He looks up and sees the disturbing group of rabid animals all on the other side, snarling at him. Jonas notices Patch licking his paw and assumes he got hurt during his fall. Elsie starts scolding him for the jump, saying she expects this kind of reckless behavior from Lord, but not from him. Then she realizes Lord isn't with them. They look up and find that he's still on the other side of the river in the tree, not knowing how to get down. Jonas tells him to just use his claws, but Lord reveals he doesn't have any. We get another flashback here of Lord as a kitten and clawing the shit out of his owner and the couch. He's then taken to the vet to get declawed. In a conversation between the father and daughter, we learn that they had to do this after Lord gave her brother stitches, and that ever since he got lost, he's just too aggressive. It's another mention of Lord being lost. I wonder what happened to him. Back in the present, Jonas asks exactly what I was thinking. If he doesn't have claws, how did he get into the trees in the first place? Lord just says, I don't know. And below, the infected cats start to climb up toward him. Jonas runs across the river once more and leaps up to save Lord, grabbing him by the scruff and dragging him to the other side of the river with the rest of the crew. Elsie tries to comfort Lord, and Jonas just says keep it moving. In frustration, she finally snaps at him, asking who he is, where they're going, and what is wrong with all the animals. Scratches apologizes for Jonas, telling her that some outdoor cats aren't very sociable. Elsie asks him where they are, and Scratch just says he doesn't really know. He's always been in these woods, only now something smells different. Lord butts in, saying that he saw their home. While he was up in the tree, he thinks he saw the mountains by their house and the tall red trees near the creek. Elsie is pretty skeptical. The truck must have taken them miles from home. Patch comes in from the woods nearby and drops a dead rabbit they could use for food. He says he found it dead, but it's still warm. Scratches then takes a look at it and says it's not safe. He can tell just by smelling it. It's like the others, the bad kind. Patch looks a little uncomfortable. His eyes are still slowly turning red. Jonas then comes up holding a squirrel he caught, and this one's actually safe to eat. Lord's a picky eater and complains that he hates squirrels. Patch starts laying into him about how he always does this, but who cares, it's more food for him. Lord snaps back, saying there's real food at home, why can't they just go there? He insists again that he saw it from the trees, and surprisingly, Scratches backs him up, saying he actually thinks he does know where it might be. There is a creek by the mountain with houses nearby. Well, that's a good sign at least, maybe they can make it home. Elsie asks if Scratches can show them the way, but before he can reply, a rabid wolf jumps into frame and tears Scratch's neck out in a flurry of blood. Oh my god. The others have no choice but to run away as the wolf chows down on Scratch's body. Okay, so this new character we were just getting used to is dead. And get used to that sort of thing. This comic is completely unforgiving. Elsie hesitates and asks Jonas if they should do something, but he just says that's exactly what happens if you stop moving. They climb to a higher branch on the tree and look out. Lord points out the mountain and creek that he mentioned, and Jonas confirms that there are houses there. Lord says that's where their people are, and if they can just find people, they'll be safe. Elsewhere in the woods, we see several men in hazmat suits holding rifles. They declare a code orange. All four-legged animals are now assumed infected and contagious and are to be eliminated on sight. Okay, well, now they have a whole other thing to be afraid of. This chapter ends with another word, hydrophobia, fear of water, and that irrational fear of water is a common side effect caused by a furious rabies infection. Chapter 3, Survival Mode. This one starts on another flashback. Lord is still a kitten and is chasing a laser pointer around the room to the entertainment of his family when it cuts back to the present and he's doing the same thing, only this laser pointer is actually the red dot sight on a high-powered rifle and several men begin shooting at him. Luckily, Lord is a quick little guy and manages to avoid the gunfire. As he hides in the bushes, we can hear the men talking. One asks if the cat was even infected, and the other says it doesn't matter. Control says to kill anything on 4 legs. Just as they close in on the bushes Lord is hiding in, the men spot something up in the trees and fire at it. It was Jonas, who hops down to save Lord once again, chastising him for straying from the group. Meanwhile, Lord is still in shock that people could be trying to kill him. His only interaction with humans has been positive up to this point. They sneak away and climb back up in the trees. Jonas says that they never seem to hit anything up here. He doesn't think they can see very well with their helmets on. They meet up with the others and Jonas says that's the last time he risks his hide for Lord. Elsie starts babying Lord again and they notice that Patch has been awfully quiet. They ask if he's okay and he just utters the words back home. Jonas says they won't make it home if they don't start following the rules. First rule, keep moving and keep quiet. Even when they're not foaming at the mouth, there are animals out here ready to eat them. Rule 2, don't stray from the group and stay away from people. 3, we don't know who's safe out here and who's bad kind, so no strangers or new friends. Lord interrupts him, pointing out that they're technically new friends. Jonas just says, trust your senses. And rule 4, trust your nose. If something smells off, leave it. 5, don't chase sparkles. If it looks exciting, run the other way. We can see an example here of shining jewelry hanging in a metal trap to lure in cats. Most important, don't try to be a hero. Other cats can take care of themselves. Elsie just needs to worry about Lord. Just then they notice that Lord is missing. Again. Worse than that, the reason he wandered off is because he saw a shimmering light and couldn't resist checking it out. He moves in on the sparkles, his eyes wide, and thank God it's not a trap. Instead, he finds the shiny collar of a cat. She seems like she's not infected and begs Lord not to hurt her. Her name is Gigi, and Lord tells her it's okay, he's a friend. Jonas and the others show up shortly after, and he starts sniffing the cat furiously, saying something smells a little off, and he's not sure if she's bad kind or not, or where she even came from. Gigi says she came from the town. Her and her partner Max lived in town with their people, but then the men came and they took Max. He tried to get loose and, well, they shot him. Gigi just ran as fast as she could until she ended up here lost in the woods. Lord comforts her and tells her she can come with them, but Jonas is pissed, wondering if he heard even a single rule. Elsie looks at the nearby stream and says the water seems clean, so they all take a break to drink. Patch, however, doesn't seem to want to go near the water, and only we know why. Elsie tries to convince him, and then out from the trees, the foxes are back. And there's more of them. 6 ravenous foxes staring them down. They need to get back into the trees, but the foxes have already cornered them. Then Lord, that ballsy SOB, actually tries to attack the foxes, jumping right at them. The thing is, he overshot the jump and just flies past them. It's actually pretty funny, him attempting this badass sacrifice only to sail over their heads. Once he lands, he just keeps on running and a few of the foxes chase after him. It's just enough of a distraction to allow the other cats to make a break for it as well. The problem is Patch is acting weird and won't move. Elsie calls for him to follow while a fox slashes at her and Gigi. We cut to Lord, who's running like hell from the zombie foxes. He finally leaps on a tree trunk and climbs to safety. At the same time, he spots the men in the hazmat suits walking by, and it seems like they've spotted the other cats up ahead. Trying to save his friends, Lord leaps from the tree, and this time he doesn't overshoot it. He lands directly on one of the men's faces, forcing him to drop his gun and scaring the hell out of the other 2. Lord hisses as they point their guns at him, and next we only hear the sound of gunshots ringing out through the forest. Meanwhile, Elsie, Gigi, and Patch are still running from the remaining foxes, but they can't hold out for long. Jonas watches from the trees as one of the foxes leaps onto Patch, pinning him to the ground, and ready to tear him to shreds. Just then, Lord pops out from the bushes. I guess he survived the gunshots. Everyone, including the foxes, turns to look at him, and he just yells out, out, "Run." Right behind him, the men come charging through, shooting everything in sight. Luckily, the foxes are the closest and largest animals nearby. As they get gunned down, the rest of the cats make a break for it. Afterwards, everyone seems more or less okay, other than Patch, who's still acting strange and won't respond to Elsie. He just says the word home and points ahead. Sure enough, it seems they've made it as they spot their house at the edge of the woods. However, there's yellow quarantine tape wrapped around the nearby trees and an evacuation order that demands all Creek County residents leave immediately. Any pets that weren't yet surrendered to animal control must be left behind. So who knows what these cats are going to find here. Chapter 4. Housebroken. They see that the front door is open as the cats approach their house, and Jonas starts coming up with a game plan to scope it out and make sure it's safe first. But of course, Lord just barges right in without asking anyone. Jonas says that this boy is a mess, and Patch gives Elsie a mean side eye, saying, "Yeah, well, whose fault is that?" Elsie looks hurt by the comment, and Gigi asks her what he means, but Elsie is just quiet. First things first, they need to find some food. Unfortunately, the pantry door is closed, but Patch jumps open and pulls the handle. I guess Elsie taught him how to open doors at some point. Speaking of which, Elsie has gone off upstairs alone, where she does her strange breathing ritual. 1, 2, 3 little kittens, and the cat spirit appears, telling her to rest and conserve her strength. Elsie says she has no more strength. They're home now and safe, but the spirit tells her she's still lost and that this place is no longer her home. She says soon he will learn what you did, before drifting away. Okay, something definitely happened between Elsie and Lord. Elsie then hears a human voice and panics running downstairs, but it turns out only to be the TV, or what they call the box on the wall. Lord turned it on while trying to eat the remote since the pantry turned out to be empty. Elsie tries to thank Lord for helping guide them home, but he's too distracted and they just end up arguing instead. Lord accidentally turns the volume all the way up and the other cats freak out thinking it's people as well. They enter the room and this part's great as the cats try to make sense of the TV from their perspective. Jonas in particular doesn't understand it since he's an outside cat, and when a commercial comes on for hamburgers, he thinks it's real and tries to get one. Meanwhile, Patch is being extra mean and is roasting the guy for not knowing what a wall box is. Next, a nature show comes on showing birds, and Gigi and Lord join in, believing that if they could just get closer, they could get at them. It's a funny scene, and if you go back and pay attention to the words coming from the TV in the background, there's a little more insight into the outbreak. We learn from the news that the quarantine zone is rapidly expanding as the virus spreads, and that researchers blame a highly adaptable strain of the virus. Out of nowhere, the loud sound of a dog barking echoes through the house, scaring the cats half to death. They soon realize the barks are coming from the basement, and they're a little confused considering they never had a dog. Lord just walks up to the door and says he's gonna let it out. Of course, everyone stares at him in disbelief, telling him not to open that door. Jonas then very seriously warns him not to do it. Lord says, okay, fine, he won't, but slowly backs towards the door and then leaps up and opens it anyway. I've never had such a love-hate relationship with a character. We've all seen a cat with Lord's personality, and it's pretty cute, but in a survival situation like this, he's really starting to piss me off. So the door swings open and Lord just walks in to the shock of the other cats. He comes back with a fluffy dog behind him, telling everyone it's okay, it's just Petey from next door. Although something is very off, and immediately Petey goes apeshit with red eyes and yellow foam spraying from his mouth. He snarls and swipes at Lord. It doesn't seem to scratch him, but it does knock him to the ground all the same. Man, this massive dog is scarier than the wolf somehow. It moves in on Lord to take a bite, and Jonas jumps in, tackling Petey to the ground and saving Lord once again. They run and Lord says he thinks something might be wrong with Petey. Jonas is like, are you dim? Yeah, something's wrong with them. The dog is lunging at every cat nearby and they start heading upstairs. As they do, Patch starts yelling at Elsie, saying, this is your fault, you did this. What the hell is he talking about? Petey comes roaring up from behind them and Lord jumps on his back to draw his attention. Now it's just him and Jonas downstairs to deal with Petey. As the dog closes in on Lord, he runs straight for the front door and at the last second leaps up and pulls it open, sending Petey outside. They shut the door behind them and the dog runs off into the night. Alright, well, another crisis averted it seems. The other cats come downstairs to make sure everyone's okay and Jonas straight up slaps Lord across the face, calling him reckless and stupid. I can't say I blame him. Patch chimes in again and says it's not Lord's fault he's all screwed up. Elsie tells him to shut his mouth, but Patch continues. We get some flashback images as he talks about Lord. Lord was always high-spirited and rambunctious even when he first joined the family, something that Elsie found quite annoying since for a long time she was the only pet. After only a month or two, Elsie was fed up with him. She led Lord outside and told him they were going to play a game of hide and seek, only Elsie never tried to find him. She was just hoping he would get lost. Well, that's messed up. The family went out searching for Lord, but didn't find him, and Elsie went back to being alone and happy. Then one day the family stumbled upon Lord on the verge of death in the woods, scrawny and beaten up with his tail missing. It's a sad and horrible sight. Patch says he was quiet at first and it took a long time for his body to recover, but his mind was broken. He came back wrong after that. Poor Lord doesn't even remember any of this, and in tears, he asks Elsie if it's true. She clearly doesn't have a good excuse for what she did. She just says she's sorry and she's not good with other cats. But Lord is overcome with emotion and bolts out the front door and into the woods. Elsie asks Patch why he's been so aggressive. Why now, of all times, would he tell Lord that? He's hunched over and doesn't answer her, and then he turns around, hissing. His eyes are completely red now, and foam is pouring from his mouth and nose. It seems Patch has finally turned, and his growing hostility was due to the infection growing inside of him. At the end of this chapter, there's a sad panel of a social media post. Petey's family post a picture of him and say he's missing. Man, he looked like such a sweet dog before too. Chapter 5. Fall. Elsie says that they had always felt safe here. We get a beautiful shot of their home as the leaves fall. Patch is slowly moving toward Elsie, looking menacing as ever after his monstrous change. Jonas jumps in, wrestling Patch to the ground and urging Elsie to grab Gigi and run. He starts clawing the hell out of Patch, and Elsie tells him to stop and not to hurt him. Jonas looks back at her like, "Are you serious?" And Patch takes the opportunity to get a leg up in the fight, smashing Jonas into the wall. Jonas tells them again to get out, and Elsie and Gigi run outside while the fight rages on. Shortly after, Jonas runs outside and manages to shut the door behind him. Gigi reminds him that Patch knows how to open doors and that's not going to stop him, but Jonas says he won't. He made sure of it. Well, that's an ominous thing to say. What did he do? Take his paw off or something? Either way, they keep moving forward, and Gigi mentions she doesn't feel very good. Elsie says they can't leave Patch. Lord ran away, and she just can't lose them both. Jonas then gives her the hard truth. Patch is one of them now, just like the foxes, the wolves, and Petey. He isn't her friend anymore. He's bad kind. Elsie just breaks down into tears and Gigi comforts her. Even Jonas looks a little guilty for being so harsh. Elsie finally gets back up and declares that they're gonna go after Lord. Jonas tells her there's no trees the direction Lord went and it's pretty dangerous. But that's exactly why Elsie needs to go. It's dangerous and Lord is out there all alone. More tears stream down her face and Jonas uses his paw to wipe them away. It's here he first notices that he has a large scratch on his arm. It looks like Patch got him in the fight. He steps back, realizing what this means, when in a truly shocking moment, a gunshot rings out. Jonas is shot through the head right in front of Elsie, blood spraying onto her face. She stands in shock, not able to process what just happened. Gigi cries out next to her, but her words are muffled to Elsie, and Jonas's body slumps to the ground. In the distance, the group of men make their way toward them, their guns drawn. Gigi desperately tries to get Elsie to move, but she's stuck in a trance. The men open fire at them, and this seems to finally get her moving. The two cats run for it until they come upon an old barn. Inside, it looks pretty gross. The floors are all sticky with some kind of green liquid. Elsie is still partially in shock and just standing still in the barn while Gigi runs around panicking, not knowing what to do. Outside, she sees the men approach the barn, which causes her to panic even more. Some slime drips onto Elsie from the ceiling, and this finally snaps her out of it. She looks up and finds that the ceiling is full of hundreds of bats, and from the looks of them, they have rabies. I can't imagine looking up and seeing that. It would be beyond frightening. Elsie tells Gigi to keep it quiet, but the men outside are getting close and their chatter wakes the bats up. Those beady red eyes look straight out of hell. The bats go crazy, flooding out of the top of the barn and swarming the area, attacking the men outside. It's pure chaos as the bats latch onto them. Inside, the cats are caught in a bat swarm of their own, and Elsie jumps into action, helping Gigi hide under a crate and crawling into a pile of hay herself. Inside, she waits, hearing the horrific screeching of zombie bats all around her. Slowly, they begin to lessen. She waits a while until until it's gone completely silent and then climbs back out of the hay. Thinking they've got to move quickly while the men are distracted, she rushes over to the crate. When she lifts it up, she finds Gigi along with 3 baby kittens. It seems Gigi was pregnant this whole time, which explains why Jonas smelled something off about her and why she was feeling sick. Outside, snow begins to fall, and deep in the woods we see Lord. All alone, he walks by the stream with tears in his eyes. Back at the house, the back door is open and there's a large trail of blood leading out. It looks like Patch did make it out of the house and he's in rough shape. Jonas didn't manage to take his whole arm off, but did give him a pretty nasty gash. Patch then wanders into the woods, and that's the end of the first arc of Feral. These first 5 issues do a great job of building a horrific scenario and just never letting off the gas. Of all the horror comics I've read lately, this one really kept me on the edge of my seat the whole way through. I'm excited to cover the next arc as well because it's been hard enough watching these adult cats survive, but now we've added 3 kittens to the mix. So what do you guys think of Feral so far? Let me know in the comments. I'll be covering the next 5 issues called the Cat Lady arc next week, so stay tuned for that. Shout out to Kill Me Katie as always for the intro and outro music, which is likely playing right now. And if you want to see your art at the end of my videos, email me a submission to the address below with a name or social media handle. But I appreciate you guys watching at all. This is Grease speaking. Goodbye, friends.
You win some, you lose some, and no one can tell you why. So you go home again. You lick your wounds and say goodbye. You know you've messed things up this time, so you go home.